Now back to the show. This is The Law Show on CL 650.
Well, of course, what would a law show be without the theme from Law and Order, of course. Sterling Fox with you on this Sunday morning, joined in studio by Gordon Maynard and Rudy Kisher from Maynard Kisher Stojkovic, immigration and citizenship lawyers in Vancouver and online at vancouverlaw.ca. Rudy, let's talk briefly about this new immigrant investor program. It's not new. Mulrooney introduced it back in the 80s, but it's newer in 2015. How so?
Well, just to backstep a little bit, our federal investor program was closed and then totally suspended with a new program that just came out in 2015, open to 60 spots.
When did they close it down?
They closed it down. They suspended it, I think, over 2 years ago,
okay.
and then they officially closed it last year.
So now it's a reopening.
And it's a reopening of a program. So to give you an idea, the old program that they had closed down, you had to invest $400,000, basically a short-term loan to the federal government,
right.
and have a net worth of $800,000. They upped that for about a year to where it was $800,000 investment, 1.6 net worth. Now they've upped it again. You have to have $2 million investment that's unsecured. Before it was a loan agreement where you got the money back from the government. Now it's money that's going at risk, the $2 million, right?
Okay, all right.
And you have to have a $10 million net worth. So that's a big jump from 1.6 to 10 million. And they have a super class, I would call it, of where you invest $2 million, but if you have a net worth of $50 million, you don't have to pass a language test.
No, that's not correct.
Hey?
Everybody has to pass a language test.
But
if you have a $50 million net worth, you don't need to get an educational certificate to verify your post-secondary
So you still have
education.
the language test.
Always have the language test.
So the language test is a base level, what they call, I think it's level 5, right? Canadian benchmark level 5.
Okay.
So, it's interesting because when they opened this program, and they only opened it, I think it was for 30 days that you had to apply in sort of February, from my understanding, they got less than 10 applications.
Oh, really? Okay.
So you're running a program. How many thousands of dollars does it cost to run, administer, develop a program, consultation, get it approved, and you get less than 10 applications.
Wow.
So we called it, the program in search of an immigrant. And that's basically, now they've reopened it, and they've given it a longer time frame, I think till December, in terms of which they'll accept applications. And I think they'll see more applications because people will have time to take the language requirement, which is a new requirement for the investors. The thought before was, we're getting your money, and you have to have business skills. Language not that important.
Right.
I think it's going to be a challenge to find those people. Typically, I would say 90% of the program was made up of mainland Chinese applicants or Hong Kong Chinese applicants, and the language requirement wasn't always the strongest.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how it works on this program. Now, I think it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and at the other swing of the pendulum from that super category of high net worth individuals, Gordon, is express entry, which is that the biggest portal that people can come to Canada through the immigration doors?
It's the one that they want to put all their eggs in, yes.
Okay.
The government likes economic immigrants, and express entry is for economic immigrants, people who are applying under the Federal Skilled Worker Program,
yep.
Federal Skilled Trades, or Canada Experience Class. And the big difference with express entry, just to remind the listeners, is that up until last year, up until January of this year, if you qualified in one of those programs, you would submit an application to immigration, and you would eventually be selected. You just had to wait.
Right.
With express entry, which started in January, nobody's allowed to submit their own immigration application. You can jump into the express entry pool. That's called submitting your profile. So if you qualify in one of these programs, one of these economic categories,
right.
You submit your profile to a pool, but you're not allowed to apply for immigration until the government selects you from the pool and issues an invitation to apply.
Oh.
And this happens every month or so. They run a scoop through the pool, and they pull out the best candidates. How do you find the best candidates? Because there's a special point system magically calculated by the Canada Immigration computer.
So you submit your profile, and they automatically start assigning points to items that you identify on your profile.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is called your comprehensive ranking score, your CRS.
Okay.
And the most you can get is 600 points based on your personal factors like age and education and work experience, that sort of thing. And there's another 600 points if you have a labor market impact assessment supporting your work permit or PMP nomination. So the most you can get is 1,200 points. So when they created this pool, what we were worried about was that everybody needed to have an LMIA or PMP nomination in order to get selected out of the pool. And that looked like it was the case, because in the first 8 months, first 8 draws from the pool between January and now, the points were over 600. They were 886, then 818.
This is out of a possible 1,200.
Out of a possible 1,200.
Right,
so all these points are more than 600.
Sure, yeah.
For a while there in March, the points dipped down to 481, 453, 469. And now the most recent poll, which was just done last Friday, the points are back up to 700 and some odd.
Gord, for every person in the pool, how many? I'm looking for numbers here. What would the total pool population represent on a monthly basis? And from that group, how many would actually be selected to be invited to apply even for a citizenship?
They're pulling about 800, 900, 1,000, and the most recent poll, I think they went way up to about 1,700.
Okay.
People given invitations to apply. But here's the concern. When lawyers went to the session at the CLE, and this was a very busy session.
I'll bet.
Everybody wanted to go in and talk about express entry because everybody had their issues with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the government said, they didn't have a chance to beta test this program before they put it into operation, right? When January 1st came, they turned on the switch and everybody had to live with it. And so it's got some glitches.
Sure.
All right?
Okay.
But the concern that everybody has, and it's a big concern, is are the points ever going to go down to 350, 400? Because there's a lot of good immigration candidates that have those points who aren't being selected for immigration, and they used to be able to apply for immigration. I'll give you an example. Foreign students, all right? They come to Canada, they go to school here, they go to university here, they get a post-grad work permit, they work for a Canadian employer, that employer wants to keep them. Those were people that used to be able to apply successfully.
Prime candidates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Settled into Canada, have a job, perfect, right? When they enter the express entry pool, because of their age, because of their early entry into the workforce,
Sure.
the computer only gives them about 350 points. And we haven't gotten down there yet. The other interesting example are senior executives, intercompany transferees. These are people typically who are in their 40s. They've got a university degree. They've worked 20 years for a multinational company.
Right.
They've been transferred to Canada as a senior executive. They're getting paid good bucks. Their kids are going to school here. The company wants to keep them. These people jump into the pool because of their age. They get diddly squat in points.
Okay, right.
And their total points are around 400 to 450, and the pool hasn't gone that low yet.
Right.
These people are not being selected.
Right.
And the government says, look, we think these people will get selected. We expect them to be selected. We just can't tell you when it's going to happen. Might be at the end of this year, might be next year. But we expect the pool will drop down that far. That's a hell of a thing to say to your client. We don't know when you're going to be selected.
Well, I was just going to say, I bet you the business at the shop is there's no shortage of it these days, Rudy, with frustrated, quite qualified and eligible people going, how about me? And you can't give them a lot of, if the government doesn't know, what can you say?
Well, we say let's talk about it. Let's put an extension on what you're doing here, and hopefully we'll work something out. Bear with us.
Maynard Kisher Stojkovic is the firm, friends. They're online. It's a great place to start. All the contacts for Gordon and Rudy and Alex, who isn't with us today, are on the website. It's vancouverlaw.ca. Gentlemen, thank you so much for this. A fascinating conversation. Always too brief. Looking forward to our next one.
Thanks a lot, Sterling.
Thanks, Sterling.
See you next time, right here on The Law Show.